One of the painting that exhibits at the National Museum of Fine Arts, Manila, Philippines, that caught our attention is the painting of the Red Pass by Ramon Peralta, E. Resurrection. The painting Red Pass by Ramon Peralta, E. Resurrection, 1877 to 1940, depicts the historic battle of the Red Pass during the Philippine-American War. The painting is a secondary source because it is an artistic interpretation or representation of a historical event. Peralta was not a participant in the actual battle, which occurred in 1899, but rather created the artwork later based on historical accounts. Thus, it is not a direct, first-hand account of the event, but rather a reflection of the artist's perspective and interpretation. Let's dive into the external criticism of the Red Pass painting. The Red Pass is a painting that visually represents the heroism of General Gregorio del Pilar and his men as they defended against American forces during the Philippine-American War. Ramon Peralta E. Resurrection, a Filipino painter active during the late 19th and early 20th centuries, created the artwork. The painting was likely created in the Philippines as Peralta primarily worked and exhibited in Manila during his career. While the exact date of the painting is not mentioned, it was created after the Battle of the Red Pass, 1899, and within Peralta's active years, 1877 to 1940. Let's dig in to the internal criticism of the Red Pass painting. The painting reflects a dramatic and heroic interpretation of the event. Peralta likely used existing historical accounts, personal imagination, and artistic techniques to capture the tension, sacrifice, and patriotism of the scene. Details such as the composition, lighting, and facial expressions of the subjects emphasize the valor of the defenders. The painting was likely created to inspire nationalism, honor the bravery of Filipino heroes like General Gregorio del Pilar, and commemorate a pivotal moment in the Philippine history. It may also reflect the broader culture and political context of early 20th century Philippine society, especially under American colonial rule, as a means of fostering national pride. Let's further understand what really the Red Pass painting is through discussing the content and contextual analysis of it. The painting likely depicts General Gregorio del Pilar leading his men at the narrow Red Pass, fending off superior American forces to delay their advance and protect President Emilio Aguinaldo. Key visual elements might include the rugged terrain of the pass, armed Filipino soldiers standing firm against advancing American troops, and the heroic figure of Del Pilar at the forefront. The Battle of the Red Pass, December 2, 1899, was a significant moment in the Philippine-American War. It highlighted Filipino resistance against American colonization, with Del Pilar emerging as a martyr for the cause. Created during a time of growing nationalism, the painting would resonate with Filipino audiences as a symbol of courage and sacrifice. It may also reflect the artist's personal sentiments about the war and the struggle for independence.
The painting Death March by Dominador Castañeda in 1904 to 1967 portrays the infamous Bataan Death March during World War. The painting is a secondary source because it is an artistic representation of the Bataan Death March. Castañeda was not a participant in actual march, but he visually interpreted the event based on historical accounts, making it a reflection of the event rather than a first-hand documentation. Death March is a painting depicting the harrowing forced march of Filipino and American prisoners of war by Japanese soldiers in 1942 during World War II. It captures the suffering, exhaustion, and brutality experienced by the marchers. Dominador Castañeda, a Filipino artist and art educator, created a painting. He was known for producing works that reflected social realities and significant historical events in the Philippines. The painting was created in the Philippines where Castañeda lived and worked. The painting was likely created after the Bataan Death March in April 1942, and within Castañeda's active years as an artist. It is a post-war interpretation meant to reflect on the events impact. Castañeda likely relied on testimonies, historical records, and his personal understanding of the war to craft a vivid and emotional portrayal. His use of color, composition, and facial expressions may emphasize the physical and emotional toll on the prisoners. The artist's style could blend realism with symbolic elements to evoke a sense of tragedy and resilience. The painting serves to commemorate the sacrifices of the Filipino and American soldiers, raise awareness about the horrors of war, and inspired a sense of national pride and remembrance. It might also aim to promote the collective memory of World War II's impact on the Philippines.
And now we'll be discussing the content in the context of the Bataan Death March created by Vicente Manansala and exhibit at the National Museum of the Philippines. Firstly, we have the content. The Bataan Death March exhibit features art pieces, artifacts, and documents that tells the story of 1942 forced march of 72 Filipinos and American posts or POWs by Japanese troops. There is a mix of Japanese propaganda, original documents, and personal stories from the survivors, along with interactive displays that cover the 65-mile route, the casualties, and the historical backgrounds of the event. On the other hand, context contained on how the Bataan March happened during World War II after the Allied surrender in Bataan, Philippines on April 1942. Japanese troops, led by General Masahiro Homa, rounded up around 72 Filipinos and American prisoners and forced them to march 65 miles of their captivity. The conditions were horrible, with extreme heat and a lot of physical abuse, leading to thousands of deaths and injuries. This tragic event highlights the brutal side of war and the harness of Japanese occupation and the fight for freedom in the Philippines.
The Carwood, Malakas at Maganda by Jose P. Alcantara, 1911 to 2005, represent the Philippine origin myth of Malakas and Maganda. The Carwood, Malakas at Maganda is a secondary source because it is an artistic representation of the Philippine origin myth. Jose P. Alcantara did not witness or experience the myth as it is a traditional story passed down through oral tradition. His work interprets and conveys the story through art, making it a reinterpretation rather than a direct or original account. The internal criticism of Malakas and Maganda is Alcantara used traditional wood carving techniques to craft the figures of Malakas and Maganda. The material, wood, and style reflect the indigenous craftsmanship and cultural identity of the Philippines. The proportion, poses, and detailing would emphasize themes of strength, beauty, and unity. The sculpture likely serves to celebrate Filipino mythology, promote cultural identity, and preserve indigenous tradition through art. Alcantara's work reflects the blending of storytelling and craftsmanship to inspire pride in a Filipino heritage.
Content. The sculpture likely portrays Malakas and Maganda as strong and beautiful figures, emerging from a split bamboo, symbolizing creation and duality. The composition might show their harmony and balance, with attention to physical features that emphasize their symbolic roles in Philippine mythology. Context. The story of Malakas and Maganda is a Filipino creation myth that explains the origins of humanity, It reflects cultural values such as harmony with nature, duality in life, and the importance of strength and beauty in character. Alcantara's work showcase Filipino identity, heritage, emphasizing the importance of mythology in understanding cultural roots. The use of wood as a medium reflects the country's rich tradition of carving and indigenous craftsmanship.
The carved wood Maria Makiling by Jose P. Alcantara from 1911 to 2005 depicts the legendary figure of Maria Makiling, a diwata or fairy from Philippine folklore. The carved wood Maria Makiling is a secondary source because it is an artistic representation of the Maria Makiling legend. Jose P. Alcantara did not witness the event of the myth, as it is a folkloric narrative passed down through generations. The sculpture reflects the artist's interpretation of the story rather than being a direct account. The external criticism. A wooden sculpture of Maria Makiling, the mythical diwata believed to reside in the forest of Mount Makiling. She is a symbol of nature, beauty, and mystery in Filipino folklore. Jose P. Alcantara, a Filipino sculptor celebrated for his woodwork and for interpreting Filipino myths and traditions in his art. Created in the Philippines, likely in his studio or workshop in Binangonan, Rizal. The specific date of the creation is unknown, but would fall within Alcantara's active years as an artist, especially during the mid-20th century when his focus on cultural themes. Internal criticism. Alcantara used traditional wood carving techniques, employing tools and methods that highlight Filipino craftsmanship. The sculpture's details such as flowing hair, graceful posture, and serene expression would emphasize Maria Makiling's beauty and ethereal nature. The sculpture likely aimed to celebrate Filipino folklore, emphasize the importance of environmental harmony, and preserve the cultural legacy of Maria Makiling as a protector of nature and symbol of Filipino identity.
Content. The sculptures likely portrays Maria Makiling as graceful and serene figure, embodying her role as protector of the forest and a symbol of beauty and kindness. Elements such as flowing garments, natural motifs, trees, vines, or animals, and ethereal pose might be present, symbolizing her mystical connection to the nature world. Context. Maria Makiling is a Diwata nature spirit, known for her beauty, kindness, and connection to the forest. She is a prominent figure in Philippine folklore, symbolizing the Filipinos' respect for the nature and their beliefs in supernatural. The sculptures reflects Filipino values of beauty, grace, and the importance of nature. Alcantara's work reinforced the preservation of cultural heritage through art, particularly in an era when modernity threatened traditional beliefs and practices.
Ink on Paper Maria Clara by Vicente S. Manansala, 1910 to 1981, is a modernist interpretation of the character Maria Clara, a central feature in Jose Rizal novel No Limitang Rights. The ink on Paper Maria Clara is a secondary source because it is an artistic interpretation of the literary character Maria Clara. Vicente Manansala did not create the character or directly experience the event depict and no Remitangi rights. Instead, the artwork reflects Manansala's personal and artistic perspective on Rizal's fictional character. External. An ink-on-paper artwork that reinterprets Maria Clara, the iconic symbol of the more idealized femininity in Philippine literature, brought Vicente Manansala's modernist lens. Vicente S. Manansala, a national artist of the Philippines, known for his cubist style and depiction of Philippine culture and identity. The piece was created in the Philippines, where Manansala worked and contributed significantly to the art scene. The specific date of the artwork is unclear,
but it was great within Manansala's active years, particularly mid-20th century when it was deeply exploring themes of Filipino identity internal. Manansala used ink as its medium, showcasing its mastery and creating deep and dimension through lines and shading. Its cubist approach likely broke down Maria Clara's form into abstract, geometric components, emphasizing the symbolic nature of her character rather than focusing on literal realism. The artwork reflects Manansala's intent to interpret traditional Filipino symbols from a modernist perspective. It likely aimed to bridge the gap between classical literary themes and contemporary artistic expression, presenting Maria Clara not just a symbol of colonial era ideas but as a dynamic, evolving figure.
Finally, content. The artwork portrays Maria Clara, Rizal's heroine, symbolizing the idealized Filipino during the Spanish colonial period. Modest, religious, and graceful. In Manansala's redemption, her figure may be abstract and stylized, reflecting the tension between the traditional values and modern interpretations. Context. Maria Clara from Jose Rizal's No Limitangere represents the virtues and constraints placed on Filipino women during the Spanish colonial era. She is both victim of societal norms and symbol of purity and sacrifice. Manansala's work connects Philippine literary heritage with visual art, reflecting on how traditional ideas of femininity can be re-examined in modern, post-colonial Philippines. The abstract style suggests a move away from rigid definitions of identity and culture.